It should be criminal how low the pay has gotten due to mass layoffs. The fact that like legacy big media companies are offering 50K for jobs that would have paid that much 10 years ago. In New York, almost every job I'm getting an interview for is like $17 an hour. It's like project manager roles. This is insane. It should be criminal.
Here's some exciting news. The federal minimum wage is $7.25. The Georgia minimum wage is $5.15. It is 2025. The average price for an apartment in the state of Georgia is around $1,200. $1,000, $1,200 for 1 bedroom, 1 bath. Probably about the same for a studio apartment as well. Yeah. Inflation has been kicking our backsides, but hey, you can survive on a minimum wage of $7.25 through the federal minimum wage. Yes.
So I just happened to look up that the U.S. average hourly wage for someone working in the United States says it's around $36 or a little bit over. I want to know where, because the majority of everyone I know doesn't make anywhere close to that, and they're in high-end positions. So I want to know who's making this $36, $37 an hour on average, and where are the majority of these Americans who are doing it? Because I guarantee, I don't know where they get these statistics from, but really? It's nobody that I know, unless you're a doctor or a lawyer or attorney or anything that's making anywhere close to that.
There isn't one state in America where a full-time minimum wage job, 40 hours a week, can cover the cost of a 2-bedroom apartment. Not one. That fact alone should stop us in our tracks. Even states with relatively low costs of living, the math still doesn't work. And this isn't just about a modest 2-bedroom apartment. This is about parents and families who are forced into unsafe living conditions. How millions of Americans are on the brink of fully being homeless or collapse. Workers are juggling 2 to 3 jobs just to keep the lights on, and many Americans are skipping meals day to day to afford rent. And most young people are living with their parents. So not only is over 50% of your income being eaten up by rent, you now can't afford to eat, you can't afford healthcare, you can't afford transportation, literally everything else that makes basic living accessible. And on top of that, we are hitting record numbers of layoffs every single month, as well as record numbers of unemployment. A separate study found something just as alarming. 50% or more of Gen Z is already dipping into retirement funds to pay off debt or to pay rent, groceries, and survive. That number is astronomically higher than any other previous generation. I believe the millennial number was at 17%, and that was seen as crazy at the time. Imagine being 23 years old, pulling money from your retirement account that was supposed to be saved for when you're 65 because you simply cannot afford rent, student loans, groceries, and gas altogether. It's impossible. So many elders are telling young people to work harder to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, but they are. Like, they literally are, and it's impossible to survive anyways. Me, myself, if it weren't for the help of the TikTok community and my family, I would be on the streets. And this is coming from people who are highly educated as well. So imagine people who grew up in rural communities and didn't have access to the same resources and didn't go to higher education, college, bachelor's, master's, none of that. Imagine what the job market looks like for them. How do we even begin to fix this?
Thinking about picking up a babysitting job after work because I don't make that much money. That's a whole other video. But I'm on this app and I see a post for, it's 2 children, middle school, preschool. They're offering $20 an hour. That is insulting, diabolical, should be illegal. The minimum wage in New York City is almost $17 an hour. You want me to take care of your 2 children? Their lives are in my hands, and you're, $20 an hour. And people are desperate enough to take it, which is so sad, and that honestly hurts the industry. But people, do not take a job that is $20 an hour for 2 children. They can't afford a babysitter. Sorry.
Wait a minute. So you telling me the cost of living is rising day to day to day? The cost of mortgage and rent and food and clothes and water and all of that is steady rising. But one thing that ain't rising is minimum wage. Come on, sip a little tea with Auntie. Let's talk about it. I'm from the state of Louisiana, y'all, and our minimum wage hasn't changed in years. Y'all ready for this big old number that our minimum wage is set for our state? $7.25 is what the minimum wage is in the state of Louisiana. I know some of y'all say I'm country and I'm sound funny. Y'all can't understand what I'm saying, so I'm going to say it again. $7.25 is what the state of Louisiana has set for minimum wage. With the cost of everything going up, I do realize every state has a different cost of living. I understand. It costs you even more in certain states to even live. But y'all, think about it. Somebody who is set that makes $7.25 these days and time, y'all, they're going to have to use the government in order to survive. How much can you do with $7.25? Even after working 40 hours a week, what can you do with $7.25? Not much. So you're going to need the government to chip in the other half just for you to still be broke. I can remember a time, y'all, when making $15, $20 an hour, you was bankroll after bankroll. Now that $15, $20 is just basically like you making the $9, $10 that we was making back in the day that we was able to do more with. Now $15, $20 is like, like you only making 8 or 9 because the cost of everything is so high that it's sucking that money out of your wallet. Enough people ain't talking about it, y'all, but y'all know I ain't telling no lies. It's 100% actual, factual that, this economy right here is at its worst right now. Right here, right now. At any time that you make it more money, you seeing $15, $20, $25 an hour. But when you get your check and after you paying your bills, you ain't got nothing to tuck away, that should tell you. Yeah. Tell you exactly what you need to know.
I think minimum wage needs to be a lot higher across the board. Let's talk about it. I realize that the other argument also exists, that minimum wage is too high and that it's the thing that's driving inflation and all of these things, but I think it's really the opposite. I believe that we are developed enough as a nation that you should be able to live entirely on a minimum wage job. Some of these states still have minimum wage that's $7.25 an hour. I mean, I know that those states are probably cheaper to live in than, say, like a California or, some other parts of the West Coast, but I can't see anybody being able to afford anything on $7.25 an hour. If we meet people's basic needs as a society, we will all rise together. That is my take.
So right now, the minimum wage is $13 an hour if you receive no tips, $9.98 if you do receive tips, but that's set to change starting September 30th. Both are set to receive a $1 raise. Yeah, you heard that right. They both getting a $1 raise. So if you don't receive any tips, the minimum wage in Florida would be $14, and if you do receive tips, it'll be $10.98. What I'm wondering is, does that mean the people who get paid a little bit more than that, do they get a raise too, September 30th? State of Florida, answer my question on this one, please. It's not nowhere near enough, but Florida is set to hit $15 an hour by 2026. Hopefully we can get this economy down so that will actually mean something.
So many people who are advocating for these restaurant jobs, like these fast food jobs, to be full-time, have benefits for people to be able to pay their rent and their car and all of this other stuff. It was never supposed to be like that. In fact, these jobs used to be primarily held by teenagers. These were first step jobs.
It wasn't until our country was flooded with illegal immigrants from everywhere.
The average fast food worker hasn't been a teenager since the mid-70s. Fast food was never designed just to be ran by teenagers, or else it wouldn't be open during school. He wants to blame immigrants as the reason that the average age of a fast food worker has gone up, when in reality, it's because there's not other jobs for them to go to. You can only work jobs that are open, so they are forced to work fast food. And if you're going to hire adults, you have to pay them like adults. You have to pay them a living wage, or else you're going to pay for it anyway with your taxes. That's why a lot of people that are adults that work fast food are on some type of government assistance. If you're going to blame immigration, you're going to have to go pretty far back for that to be the case, because the average age of a fast food worker has been in the mid-20s for a very long time. The demographics of a fast food worker as far as race have been fairly similar for a very long time. There was a slight uptick in Hispanic and Latinos in fast food, but white people have been steadily 65 to 70% of the fast food workforce, again, for a very long time.
There are so many vicious cycles in life, but if you live in the world I live in, you understand the struggle when there are people around you who were given more than you were in their lives, and they're asking you, well, why are you struggling? Well, because it was all handed to you, and none of that was handed to me. I had to work hard for all the things that I have, and I'm still in debt. I still have student debt. I still have all these things, whereas your house is paid off, and we're the same age. And people can't step back and look at that and realize that their parents handed them everything. And they wonder why we're struggling, why we can't make it on fucking $28 an hour in Vermont. It doesn't make sense that I can't make it on that wage. It doesn't make any sense. Well, don't live beyond your means. Well, I already had kids. I have to pay more than my mortgage to put one of them into daycare. We'll just quit your job and do that. Well, no, because I still have bills to pay. You still got to pay other bills. Staying home with my kid is not going to help me not pay those bills.
So I saw a post the other day that said Houston is now one of the poorest cities in America. And at first glance, I ain't gonna lie, it definitely made sense. Because the job market here is fucked up. Let's just be real. You can literally work full time and still be motherfucking broke. The average job does not pay enough to cover rent, groceries, bills, and a damn emergency. When you actually compare the cost of living to what these jobs pay, it just don't add up. They're literally asking people to survive on math that doesn't make sense. But on the flip side, here's what people don't talk about. Houston is one of the most entrepreneur-friendly cities in the country. This city is flooded with opportunity if you know how to play the game. Low startup costs, massive industries, tech, real estate, oil. Doors are literally wide open if you have resources and connections, and obviously strategy. That's why you'll see broke neighborhoods just a few blocks away from billion-dollar developments. Houston is not poor. The people are just underpaid. The system is set up to keep workers hustling just to get paid, pennies on a dollar, while entrepreneurs, investors, and resourceful people thrive. If you're dependent on a paycheck in Houston, you are stuck in a cycle that was not meant for you to thrive in. But if you learn how to fix your credit, start a business, invest in real estate, or just invest in something, the city can literally reward you overnight. So, yeah, the photo was right, but it was also wrong. Houston is one of the poorest cities if you do measure it by wages and jobs. But Houston is one of the richest cities if you measure it by opportunities and entrepreneurship. The difference is resources and mindset.
We just found out that you have to make $66 an hour as a minimum wage in order to have the buying powers that boomers had in the 1970s. This generation has to work more than the previous generations, and we have nothing to show for it. No house, no savings, no investments, no retirement, no nothing. We're just working just to barely survive. Life costs more than what we get paid.
How am I supposed to buy myself a house with a $20 an hour job? And I asked this question before, and I'm going to ask it again. I'm not talking to y'all that already bought your houses back in 2020 and 2018 and 2008. Who cares? We talking about right now 2025. How am I supposed to do that, bro? I'll wait. Because, like, bro, buying a home is like, bro, it seemed like a long lost dream now. The American dream is cooked. And why, bro? Why, when we are the adults, right? When we are the adults, prices gotta be 20x. Why, bro?
And this is the part people don't realize when they argue against raising minimum wage. You're saying your husband is in construction and makes $45 an hour. Minimum wage, buying power back in the 70s, is the equivalent to $66 an hour. Meaning your husband working construction is participating less in our economy than someone on minimum wage back in 1970. Because you are so busy trying to convince yourself that Walmart and McDonald's aren't careers and that people don't need to be paid to do those jobs. You don't see the ripple effect it has on our economy. The more you keep those wages down, the more all our wages go down. The higher the minimum, the higher everything else. So quit shooting yourselves in the foot.
I honestly did not realize just how far and wide it goes. People in my age group, Gen X, 50 plus, living paycheck to paycheck, struggling just to make ends meet. If you've never seen me before, my name's Diane. I had a post that's going kind of viral right now. I'm a grieving mom. I lost my son just over a year and a half ago to an overdose. I recently got some news that my car needs an expensive repair, and I have no cushion, no savings, no nothing. And I work every day. I've been working since I was 16 years old. We are all waking up to the fact, I think a lot of us simultaneously, that we've been fed a lot of bull about this country, and we are watching in real time what happens in late stage capitalism when the greed of the 1% begins to really become apparent. How they continue to drain and pull and draw from those of us who are what's considered to be the working class, who are going to work, who are doing the jobs. We're watching it happen. We are all waking up to this at the same time and feeling so completely overwhelmed and defeated. We have got to come together as a collective and come up with a way to turn this around so that we can not just survive, but actually live and not feel like at any given moment we could become homeless or lose everything. It shouldn't be this hard.
I saw an article the other day that said there are no longer any minimum wage jobs that will allow you to or pay you enough to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. And I know what some of y'all might be thinking, you know, you can never really afford a 2-bedroom apartment on minimum wage. And whatever your belief is, I do think that that is very unfortunate. I think it's just unfortunate where we've gotten in society, bro, when it comes to, and let me say this, I'm blessed and fortunate enough to be able to afford the things that I can afford. And currently where I stand, that's not my problem, right? Thank God. However, it is a human problem. The fact that people cannot afford to live in apartments, groceries, rent, just, you know, it's just unfortunate, bro, like where we've gotten as a society, you know what I mean? And it's not showing, there is no data to show that this thing is ever going to go back to what we knew it to be at one point, where people could afford things, you know what I'm saying? It's only showing to get more expensive, and people are going to be asked out. People going to be asked out, and it's beyond anyone's control, at least on the ground level, bro. And it's just, again, that shit is heartbreaking, bro. Back to my gentrification conversation yesterday. All across the board, we just being set up to fail. People are being set up to fail and to struggle. They making it this way. You know what I mean? And then, like, you can access better opportunities because they're not giving them out like that. They got AI. They spent so much time telling you to get in tech and learn how to code and do this and that. And Now they got AI coming in to do every job that they trained you to do and told you that you needed to do.
If your job pays you minimum wage, that is your employer telling you, if I could pay you less, I would, but legally I can't. Minimum wage should be a livable wage because the type of work you do does not matter. What matters is that if you show up every day to a job and you have to give 8 to 10 to 12 plus hours of your labor and your life every day to a job, and you are directly contributing to the profit that that business makes and the business cannot function without you, you should get a livable wage with which to be able to buy the necessities of life, food, water, rent, etc. Full stop. The entire point is that there is enough money in this system, in the economy, across all of these major corporations and businesses that everyone in the business can and should have a livable wage from the labor that they provide to the business. That, again, helps the business function, and it cannot without their labor. If your business needs janitors and burger flippers and doormen to function, they deserve to be able to live off of the job they do, and there's enough money in the system for everyone to be able to do that. That's the point. Everyone can and should have more. Someone else getting more does not mean you get less.
Your home prices. In 1980, the median household income was $22,000 and the median home price was $47,000. That was only twice the yearly salary. And if you wanted to put down a 20% down payment and closing costs, it would cost you about $11,000, which is only half the yearly salary. So you have your 13% interest rates. Your monthly payment was $485 a month, which was only 26% of your gross income. Now, if we had the same setup that you did in the 80s, our median household income is $80,000. That means the house price would sit around $170,000. A 20% down payment closing cost would be $40,000. 13% interest rates would put our payment at $1,790 a month, which is 26% of our gross income. All would be well in the world. But here's our actual reality. Median household income, $80,000. The median home price in 2024 is $419,000, which is 5 times the salary. And if you wanted to put down 20% and closing costs, it would be $100,000, which is more than the actual yearly salary. Even though we have 7% interest rates, the payment out the door is still $2,800 a month, which would eat away at 42% of our income. And here's the kicker. Someone making $80,000 in most cases can't even qualify for this.
Bruh, it's only logical to go up on minimum wage if everything going up. All these high-ass prices for shit, but we can't afford it because they won't go up on our fucking paychecks. What the fuck is the government doing, bro? I feel like the government is so illogical and unintelligent. They really got us out here fucking suffering. We going through inflation. Why can't y'all inflate the fucking paychecks, man? That's the only logical thing to do, bro. Like, why is the minimum wage still at the regular standard $7.25, even though I don't get paid that? You know what I'm saying? I got a good job or whatever. But still, bro, y'all should go up and keep this shit balanced. This shit is so imbalanced, bro. Like, what do the government be going? Like, what is their thought process? Can't nobody live on the minimum wage that we making in America, bro? You gotta have a good job, you know what I'm saying? You gotta do all of this and do all that. But I feel like the regular standard pay should be $20 an hour wherever you fucking work. Cause this shit ain't feeding nobody. The shit that they got us going through, it ain't feeding nobody, bro. They literally want us to fucking suffer, bro.